Good afternoon. Welcome to our ninth podcast, which will be covering the first item in the 7 things you should know about NoCode. Appreciate you sitting in on all the other podcasts. If you haven't looked at them, please go to YouTube or our LinkedIn websites and you'll find them. And joining me for our panel today is Chet Hall, CEO of Intact Global, Tom D'Alfonso, President of Agmine, and myself, the CEO of Digital Cloud Solutions. The focus of all of this is bridging the gap between business and IT and helping the business community, the executives specifically of the company, to understand that their departments and their process people that understand what's needed have the ability to develop applications they need. And the idea that this actually is IT's best friend, not a competitive situation, because IT is busy with lots of projects typically and running the engine and all of the large back office applications that you already have in place. Whereas NoCode, in bridging the gap, allows the departmental business and functional side of the company to get what they need to do their job better and help with competitive analysis, competitive processes, as well as profitability increase, which of course results in greater revenue for the company. Today's topic is the number one reason why you should know about NoCode. Your business changes quickly and your technology should keep up with it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chet and Tom and get into the details of how this works.
Yeah, thanks, Edward. Gosh, we've been going through this now, so through 7 podcasts, and I'm excited to be on the last one here because it is, number one, I think it's probably the most important reason. This is something that's been going on in the industry for forever, right? Business changes. And as far as I can remember, the many years that I've been in business and technology, it's always changes and we always have a technology challenge to keep up. So if your business never changed and your customers were always happy and you had no competition and you're obviously then would have a company, your company would be a cash cow, then hey, you're lucky and you don't need to do anything, right? But that's not the real world. The business changes every day. The world is changing every day. Things are expanding and growing, and Tom, stuff like supply chain is interrupted on a daily basis, right? So, man, tell us about how this business as usual is just a dead end.
Right. Let's not get complacent with business as usual when things are going smoothly. But as we've seen over the past few years, external factors can come in and change things very dramatically. So, typically a business will go through an evolution, will adapt, we'll have projects and upgrades. But what we've seen in the past few years are big disruptions to the supply chain, big changes in the way people work, and all of these necessitate a rapid response. And if your systems are static, then they may not be as responsive. They may not change quickly enough to meet the needs of the current situation. Other ways that companies go through changes, there are mergers and acquisitions, there's growth, there's downsizing. And in all of these cases, the IT tools that are in the company or in the company's merging or used by individuals immediately change when the company structure changes. So these reasons, companies changing internally, external factors, all necessitate quick responses so that people can get their jobs done. And when you have a unique situation and you don't have an IT tool to help you manage through it, you're going to invent something yourself. You're going to put a spreadsheet together. You're going to pull out a whiteboard. You're going to have notepads full of notes that you're passing to try to manage the situation. And what would be better is if you have an app that does what you need to do your job and you have it quickly and inexpensively to respond to those changes.
Yeah, and look, you said it. There's external factors that change every day, and you touched on the internal factors, such as people are working more remote now, and there's just different needs that people have. And let's talk about the new generation of people that are coming out of colleges right now and what they expect. There's no vacation here when it comes to change. You can't stop, and you also can't rely and be held captive by the IT department, because they just can't keep up with what is going on in the world today anyway, because they're just short on resources. So how are we bridging that gap, Edward, on work that we've done so far in the business world with colleges and students?
Well, as you touched on a number of subjects, but the bottom line is these changes are being uncovered and driven from the business side of the company, because it's the executives, it's the investors, it's the directors, it's the salespeople, it's the customer service, it's the people that are interacting with your clients and prospective clients that are driving this need for a change, which is going through the processes they have in place to be competitive in the marketplace, provide their customers what they need. And these are aspects of the company that IT is not involved in, right? They don't know what's happening out in the marketplace. That's not their job. Their job is to make work what you already have in place. So the idea of being able to react to those situations, those market changes, you mentioned the problems with supply chains. The guys who are seeing that in the company are the people that are responsible for the clients, the customers, and the executives of the business are the ones that see this. So, if you don't bring NoCode into your business so that your people that are seeing all these changes can make the changes, then you got to go through the old process of having to gather all that data, put it together, and then go to IT and re-explain what you're talking about, and then they go out and do research and find the latest technology and all that. And you don't need to do that, which is the whole concept of what we're talking about, which is if a change needs to be made, then your people that are in place can make those changes to an application, to a process. And in going to your point, Chad, about the education that we're seeing with colleges and delivering the solutions that we've developed and others, is that the kids coming out of school are going to expect this. So they're going to wonder why. The salespeople, the customers, the executives say, okay, we're going to need to do it this way. And why can't I do that? Why isn't that part of my tool set in my department, along with everything else that they do, that they can make those changes and go back to their job?
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, look, Tom, you and Edward both said this, is the user is the person, and we've kind of talked about this in the over the podcast of the 7 reasons. The user is the person that has the finger on the pulse of what's going on, and if they can make quick changes and to their platform to adjust to those changes that are happening, those configurations that are happening in the world every day and with their customers, they're going to keep their customers happy, and they're going to be able to, move through the process. Can you imagine some of the supply chain issues that are going on now, and you have to go to your board and say, well, it's going to take us 6 months to adjust our application for these new supply chain issues. It's too late. We need to do it in days or hours, right? And that's where this whole no-code platform helps us do that.
Well, you just touched on if somebody wants to explore this and they say, well, what do you mean? Why would my departmental person need to do this? Well, when was the last time you said, why is it taking so long to get this information, right? Or the information's wrong, or that individual says that, what they have, they can't get the information out of. Well, that's because the system doesn't do what it needs to do. And the process is now that you have to go back to IT and say, okay, well, this happened in the supply chain, or that, the boss wants to see this, that, and the other, and they can't get it. But with no-code applications and the ability to do this at the departmental level, they can make those changes and speed up the process.
Yeah, it's so important because you have customers that you're trying to keep happy with this ever-changing competitive world. And if you're not keeping them happy, then what's going to happen is, as we talked about in the very first slide, they're going to move on, right? We're not going to be able to keep up, and it will take too long for us to get our customers to be happy with what they're getting, so they can do what they need to do to stay competitive, right? So they're going to leave you, and they're going to find somebody that has the ability to keep up. Tom, have you seen that before? Have you moved from one customer to the other because of technology?
Oh, absolutely. Your customer wants to know when your product is going to arrive. Your customer wants to know who's going to be servicing them if you're providing technical support. And if you have a company where the people in each department work well together in interdisciplinary ways, where they communicate to one another what bottlenecks might be, or what new changes there might be in the personnel. You may have new people coming and going, and in today's world, there's a lot of changeover of people. And what happens is the companies that are able to be adaptive and agile are the ones that are going to keep their customers happy. They're going to be able to keep track of the changes within their organization and communicate better to their customers. So if there's a new, let's say, invoicing method, or you need to communicate to your customers that you have longer lead times, or if there's a new technical service person that's going to be servicing them, managing within your company HR, finance, operations, legal, managing those well means that you're able to serve your customers better. You mentioned what's being taught in universities and in business schools, and for a long time, the best business schools were bringing students from different departments together and working on projects and fostering cross-disciplinary work. That's a necessity now, and companies that have bridged the gap between the technical savvy and the business savvy people are the ones who are going to be able to supply their customers, service their customers, to retain morale within the because when employees have the tools that they need to get their jobs done, they're more productive and happier in their work. So this all fits together.
I was going to say, when you talk about specific examples in keeping and retaining customers, it boils down to what you said, which is who's easier to deal with. I call my company that's handling our business, and they're not responding as faster as company B. Well, why is that? Well, if you look at the departmental level and the processes, it's taking them longer to deliver the products, services, phone calls, maintenance, whatever, because they are having to go through multiple steps, or rekeying of data, or all these things that are a differentiator between from the simple statement that, well, they're easier to deal with and they're faster.
Well, and one of the things that we know and we sometimes take for granted is it's a lot less expensive to keep your customer and keep them happy and change internally to keep them with you than it is to go find new customers. It's very expensive to find new customers. You got the customers you have, you need to figure out how to keep them. And so if you're in business, you already know that. Being able to be agile, like Tom's saying, is so important for your customers in today's world.
If you save that time by cutting out all those process steps and making things faster from a response time, maybe your people will have the time to actually answer phone calls, because this whole COVID and the scenarios over the past year has been to not answer calls, but to deal with through chats and supporting email requests and things like that. And the bottom line is, I know from my experience, just with cable and Fire Sticks and all of the things out there, that the ones who respond quickly and over the phone are the ones I'm going to go with. And but if you don't have the time or the personnel to do it, you're in trouble.
No doubt about that. And so we've been talking about this now for 7 episodes, and I just want to summarize, and then we'll jump into the bridging the gap on this and our final piece. Here's the bottom line of really the reasons why you need to know no code, and that is, as long as software development has existed, the demand has always for building application has always outpaced the resources to do the work. So that is the facts. The facts are there's always a demand for application development, and the resources are not where we need them to be able to keep up. So no code comes in. That's why no code exists, is because app development tools, we just needed those tools to be able to move forward and not have to wait on IT. So these new tools are now an opportunity for your organization to take control of their of some of their application development requirements. As we talked in the past, it's not all of them. Your enterprise level applications are most likely not going to be no code, but some of them could be. But this gets you further down the road, so you can support your customers, so you can change with rapidly or agile, like Tom said, with the pace of business and the pace of the world that we're in nowadays.
I was just going to say, and that's why the way that we're presenting this also is that this is IT's best friend. Why? Because the fact that they don't respond or don't get to the requests of the departments and things like that is they don't have the time, right? I mean, that's what it boils down to, is they don't have the time, or they don't have the tools to respond to what the business needs. So taking that burden off of them for some of the requests and putting that in the hands of the department or the exec, eliminates that burden on the IT department, and that's why they should embrace this also. So
yeah. So as we talk through this change process that happens, and how do we bridge the gap, right? So what are some other examples that we could throw in here to talk about that? It's a good one that you just said, Edward, is they just don't have the time, so we're helping them. That's the replacement. That's the bridge in the gap here, is how can business and IT work together? Well, look, don't put the burden, business people, don't put the burden on IT to do all the work for you guys. Go out and learn some of these tools, understand what your technology stack needs to be, work with your corporate management, understand what they need to be, and build this your infrastructure, your not just the technology infrastructure, but your personnel infrastructure to do the work. And that's where that's how you're gonna bridge the gap. So
well, a key, I mean, another, to answer your question, the response you would get probably from most business people is, well, I'm not technical. I can't even, I'm not going to approach that. I couldn't do that. But the bottom line is, you don't have to be a technical person to do this. And that's a big change.
When companies are going through changes, the priorities in the business change. And that may mean that the app that you need to do your job falls down the priority list of the IT department, because they are trying to respond to whatever changes are happening, whether they are internal or external. People who have in the business units or business functions who have some technical capabilities will go ahead and put together a spreadsheet or a process so that they can continue to do their job. Well, if that person who developed that spreadsheet or that process, that procedure leaves the company, then that information can be lost. Then that process can be lost. So where no code and low code really helps is that it bridges the gap between the business and the IT by giving the business people the tools to get the apps that they need to do their jobs, to comply with the company's IT policies and structures and governance. And if you don't have such tools available, people are going to do what they need to do to get their job done, and they're going to remain in their silo. The company's going to lose that information if the person leaves the business. There's so much value to having these tools that are adaptive and agile for the individuals in the business units.
Well, and you have to remember that the IT department doesn't sell chickens and microchips, okay? The business does. And that's where the emphasis needs to be on process improvement, customer service, response times, the information that the executives and the CFO need to analyze where they are in the marketplace. So, again, the focus needs to be on selling products and services, and with no code, that gives them the ability to improve that and make sure that they're competitive.
There was a discussion I was involved in once, whether it's harder to teach a nutritionist how to do IT, or an IT person how to do human or animal nutrition. And what I think the answer was, well, let's get them both talking so they can understand each other's needs, so the IT could be more productive for the business, and the business people can be more, let's say, appreciative of the IT department and work together.
Yeah. Well, and part of bridging the gap, and we've talked about all this stuff, but you're 100% correct, Tom. And part of this bridging the gap is not having to rely on an IT person to understand your business. And that's one of the problems that we talked about this on the other podcast. One of the big problems is sometimes an IT person becomes the expert, and then the business starts relying on the IT person to be that expert. And sometimes it's only just one person. And when that expert leaves, you're sunk. We talked to so many companies, over the past couple of years, 3 years or 4 years since we've been doing no code. And over again, one of the reasons they call us is because, hey, I need you to reverse engineer this application because the person that was running it for 20 years and the only person that was running it for 20 years is now gone. They developed it, they're gone. And that was a technology person, and the business people don't know anything about it other than to push a button. And now it's broken or it needs to be changed, and we don't have anybody to do that. So that is not the situation you want to be in. We had a company that called us probably 6 months ago, and they were in dire straits because the person, again, for 20, 25 years that built this application, who was a technology person, had a stroke, and they weren't coming back to work. So we're, sad that those things happen, but that's the reality of where we're at. And they had nobody. They were down. They were literally down and couldn't run their business because of this application for about 4 weeks. So how do you tell your customers that you can't run your business and help them for 4 weeks in this particular area? Not the situation you want to be in. So that's how this helps bridge some of the gap.
Well, we're talking about specific examples. I think of when you're talking to a department person, a customer service, an operational person, and if you dig into all of the applications that the company is paying for and all the maintenance, but you're going to be shocked, right? But then when you talk to the actual user, and it's like, well, why are you using that program? Well, it's easier to use, right? Yep. Meanwhile, you've got 10 other applications that you're paying for, and as far as IT knows, they're just supposed to support it and keep it working. But that brings on a whole discussion topic of letting the user customize or tweak or develop the application that they know will be easy to use, will provide the information quickly, the process improvement, eliminating steps. And then if we're talking to the CFO, it's like, well, again, you're paying for 100 applications and you're using 20 of them. Now, why is that? Okay, that's not the IT department's fault. That's somebody else's job to look into it and say, well, we don't need this, we don't need that. And if you go to the users, then you're going to find out. It's like, well, I'm using this application because it's easier to use and gives me what I want. Even though this product B does 100 different things, it's too complicated. They just have to give their manager what they need.
Yeah, and that, what you just said, Edward, is the reason why you need to put in place something to help bridge the gap. You need your citizen developers to come together. You need this center of excellence in your organization. You need a playbook. You need these processes that we've been talking about to help support the opportunities that are out there, to use those tools and to make sure you're using them properly and make sure you have the right technology stack in place, and that you're following governance and compliance and security issues that are part of it. So you have to bring all that together. And I know it sounds like a lot of work, but it's really not that hard to do if you have somebody helping you get through the process. And you can put this stuff together in this with these citizen developers, if you will. You can put this together in a center of excellence, create your playbook, and then go and execute that. And it just bridges the gap between the IT and the business and pulls it all together for you, so you don't have the sprawl that you were just talking about. That's the playbook. That's how you get this done.
So I would just add that company morale and culture is just so much better when you have these conversations taking place, when you have these centers of excellence, when you have the playbook that everyone can adhere to, and then get on with their jobs. It's just a far better place to work.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you for the attending the completion of our 7 points on why you should understand NoCode and how it bridges the gap between the business side of the company and the IT department. And again, we encourage you to watch the other podcasts, and also tell you that we're going to continue with our podcast with different topics that we know impact the business as well as the IT department. And those will be coming up in the next few weeks, and you should get a message about them. So with that, thank you for everybody for joining our panel, and have a good day.